Um, Big welcome back to all my lovely souls out there to Quantum Soul Healing. And I am here yet again, joined by the beautiful Nicole. And we are going to talk about demons, dark entities, little parasites. I don't know. We're just going to like freestyle this and see what comes up. Just to give everyone a little bit of a background about demons, like where did they come from? How do they affect us? How do we protect ourselves? How do we know if we've possibly got one attached to us is another thing to talk about. But I think we're just going to freestyle this, aren't we, Nicole, and just see where it heads to. But yeah, let's just start about like, what are demons? Because there seems to be more talk about it now. I notice on just so many different platforms, people are actually starting to talk about it. And I always find it very fascinating if you think about, the saying it's like, face your inner demons, face your demons, or that little devil made me do it. So yeah, you got the little devil and the angel and the battle going on. So I think it's time for us to go, what are they? What can we do about them? So you
Yeah,
take it away and tell me what you've come across, what you've discovered, like, where did they come from?
absolutely. Thank you. I think to start with this one, it's helpful to just do a quick overview of the fact that we have, like, my understanding, and obviously a lot of the sages and everything talk about the fact that we're one consciousness. And I think it's just important to explain that that consciousness, it split itself down into many different layers of dimensions. And I think this is where, like, because we were like, well, we're like the top of the food chain, we're humans, we're in the third dimension, la la la. And we don't appreciate that there are other dimensions that we can't see or feel with our physical senses, like our sight, touch, taste. But when people open up their clairs, their clairaudience, their clairsentience, and they can start to sense and see and feel and interact with these other dimensions. And that's where these demons reside. So, like, first dimension is minerals, second dimension is plants. We're in the third dimension, but we do also bridge into the fourth dimension with our thoughts. And that's where they can then intersect with us. So I just think that's just a nice little, like, explanation of where these beings reside, is they are here in this sort of next to us in a realm that we can't see. And when you study like the spectrum of light, the actual band that humans can see is so narrow. And I have heard someone say that there's a specific shade of red glasses, going off on a bit of a tangent now, but just to show this in its like, there's a certain shade of red that the American army and the military have banned the public having access to as like a spectrum of light over sunglasses, because they had that red beam, and when they put it on, people could see spirit.
Yeah, I've heard that story too.
So
It was
these,
the military, wasn't it?
yeah, in
The
Vietnam.
goggles that they put on, and I thought apparently some of the men did not mentally recover after what they saw.
No, because a lot of the things. So I don't know about you, Sally-Ann, but I can open my third eye and see these things, and sometimes they come through as a really clear image. And some of the computer games, like the zombie apocalypse ones, and the movies, and certainly Stranger Things, I felt was a very accurate representation of what that demonic realm looks like when you're sort of looking at it, and those beings that they have walking around with the weird feet and stuff. I'm like, yeah, they had it pretty spot on with like what these beings look like. Um, and my understanding in terms of how they came to be, um, it kind of goes back to the Atlanteans. That civilization, they were very advanced. They had a lot of power. They were very spiritually risen, but they were also using a lot of black magic, and they were really trying to play around with these skills and these spiritual abilities that they had. And there are talks of them integrating human and animal and doing weird
Yeah.
scientific experiments. And within doing those experiments, they created a split in the universe. Something happened. They invited in a dark energy. And that dark energy is what we now know as this demonic realm, then started attaching itself to and seeking power with those that were in charge, like the elites. So the
Yeah.
elites started communicating with these negative beings. Because if you're a negative being and you want power and control, you're going to side with like the elites. You're not going to try and like get in favor with the underdogs or the people at the lowest rank if you're all about power and control. So they started talking to the elites, and then the elites uh, came into agreement with these demons that they would create this as a hell realm so that they could get as much food. And we'll go into the food bit in a minute, but
Mm.
it was basically to help feed the demons negative light, using us as cattle, basically. In the same way we farm cows and pigs and chickens to eat, demons use the planet Earth as a giant farm for
Yeah.
their
Like a battery
negatively.
farm. It's like
Yeah.
sucking the living daylights out of you,
Yeah.
essentially, isn't it? You
And the
know,
Matrix. I
mm,
mean, when they've
hmm
got those robotic things coming in and just draining the life force out of these bodies that are in pods in this other realm. I mean, that's what's happening to us. It's our light body that's being fed off. We can't see our light body because, as I say, the spectrum of light that we can see is so narrow, but we all have a light body next to our physical body, and that's the one they parasite off. But it
yeah.
then affects the physical body.
Yeah. Once eventually, I guess, when the energy's been depleted from that light body, that's, I guess, when our physical body starts to show symptoms,
Yeah.
isn't
Starts
it?
to
But I do. I
deteriorate.
view this place as like the humans are almost like we're just like a big a battery farm,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because we have it's all about the light, this
Yeah.
incredible, beautiful light that we have that we've never been taught about at school that's inside of us.
And there's so much that points to the fact that we are energetic beings. We live on an energetic world. You've got the Schumann resonance, which is the Earth's frequency that she emits. And our body is supposed to be in tune with the Schumann resonance. So when her frequency rises, ours is meant to do it. And then you've got things like 5G and 4G and Wi Fi and radio frequencies all interfering with that. And you can take pictures of us if you see us under a, I don't know what they call it, but like the cameras that sort of look at the electromagnetic field. All of us have this toroidal field that comes out at the top of our head and goes around our body in all directions and then up back into our feet and up again. And that's the same thing that happens with the world. So we're energetic beings, the world is an energetic being. And then there's these beings in the fourth dimension that have switched off from their own source light because they want to be service to self. They want to be, they're very sort of narcissistic in their way of being, toxic, self serving, lacking in empathy. And they want to feed off of light, but they can't feed off source light because they detest source, because source is just pure unconditional love. Source loves all beings that he, she has created, that it has created, however you want to phrase that. And so these beings can't feed off that light. They have to find a source of light that matches them in that negative realm. And that's what that was the agreement they did with these elites, was like, we want to feed off the most toxic, traumatized light that you can create. So, you know, what do you want to do as like your recipe to create that? We'll give you the tools to allow you to create
Yeah.
that hell realm.
And it really explains why everything in Earth has been so um everything's so tormented, like from the wars, and you kind of like look at these evil leaders and you're like, how on earth is it humanly possible? Because we're not like them to create these situations and scenarios for the mass population. And when you understand that they're like fully like taken over by these dark entities, then that is why they can do these things, you know? And I think that's a really, you've given a really beautiful explanation of what they are.
To put it into context, excuse me, a few of the things that have happened like recently, which I thought that was really interesting, was yesterday they announced the death of this Pope.
Yeah.
And that is the day after Easter, which is supposed to be when Jesus has resurrected. And if anyone's looked into what that resurrection means, it means letting go of your ego consciousness and becoming back one with source consciousness. That's what the resurrection really is. It's the death of your ego mind and surrendering back up to source consciousness. So we all have the ability to access Christ consciousness if we want to make that surrender to the high power. But they did that the day after Easter. I don't know if this guy really has gone like, but they want to keep the collective in a low vibration. So the day when Jesus has risen, they've now added this negative energy because all of those Christians and all the people in the Catholic Church are all going to be mourning the loss of the Pope.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, but they all love their specific dates. I mean, there's so many different videos and theories out there of it. Um, so I don't know, take your pick.
Yeah, and it was on the 21st as well.
Hmm.
They always do stuff around the 21st, 22nd. If you like pay attention, there'll always be big news drops on those two dates because
Yeah.
there's something about because it's the cusp between star signs, the
Ah, so
21st.
it is, yeah.
There's an energetic bridge there. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what it is, but I've just noticed that 22nd always seems to be a big news drop date.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. So, I was wanting to talk about, where these, what do we call them? Dark entities, where do they attach to? Because I'll start off with one energy center I always think is the absolute favorite, especially for women, is the sacral. I guess, are you coming across this too within your sessions? And this
Yeah.
connection of you find in the female line, it's coming down from generation after generation, from the great grandmother into and all the way down through that female lineage. And it's always come through, I guess, going back into the olden days through, think how people's lives were very based on fear and scarcity and lack of, and there was all this witchcraft going on and the persecution of witches. So I think they were really targeting women who were very consciously aware and probably were the healers, the star seeds, the light workers, all those types of people. And then woof, because if you think about it, the sacral is that's your joy center. And then so each generation, each female is getting born in with something attached into their sacral. So that's going to just be feeding off that beautiful orange energy of your sacral, of your joy, your creativity, your passion. Um, and that's one of the sort of favorite places I find things in. Obviously there's like the solar plexus, um, and the throat and the third eye, I would say they're the other favorite ones. But what are you finding within your sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. The sacral also being a portal from the spirit realm into this realm. Like we reincarnate into many, many lives. And every time the soul accesses the third dimension, it comes through the womb space. So, of course, the demonic realm want to be able to control that process of a new spirit coming in, and they're already creating a toxic environment in that womb. So I had um, this like ancient demon in my womb, which is the same as what you was explaining there, where clearly through that female lineage, there's been so much trauma in the feminine energy in this collective space, the collective consciousness. We just haven't respected the power and the beauty of the feminine. We live in a patriarchal society that favors the masculine energies, and we all know how that's got us. But yeah, the demons don't want that feminine energy to be a positive, healing, nurturing energy. They want it to be toxic, like narcissistic, emotional, like not,
Yeah.
yeah, because
And then I guess the opposite with the men, if they've got a sacral demon attached to them, that's when it's like sex addiction, porn addiction,
violence in those ways.
yeah, and just that disrespect to that the beauty of the femininity, isn't it, as
Exactly.
well? Or I
Yeah.
guess it can happen with the females then. A female can have really massive high, sex
Sexual.
drive that likes, let's say, kinky things. Because it could just be that it's a dark entity feeding off of her, making her want to do these like quite perverse acts, I suppose.
Yeah, that ultimately do harm her spiritually
Yeah,
because they're quite violent normally and very
yeah,
disrespectful. And also, every time you have intercourse with a man, some of their emotional baggage is entering your womb space. You're
yeah.
carrying that, you're creating an energetic link between the two of you. We just don't appreciate this sort of stuff. We just don't
No,
know about it.
yeah. I always say to women, yeah, be careful who on earth it is that you're letting near your feminine bits, you know?
Yeah, letting into your space.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then we have this culture now that really encourages women to sleep with as many people as possible. Like there was that woman, how many was it that she bragged? She tried to sleep with 1,000 men in a
Thousand in
day.
a day.
And she was so emotionally broken by the end of it.
Hmm.
And it's no wonder. So yeah, wow. I mean, it's just shocking when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but that's it. It's, they start it so young. I think, even like through music videos and stuff, isn't it? The sexualization of um
Women.
just
Yeah.
singers, dancers wearing hardly anything. There's all the raunchy moves. So really young kids are growing up thinking that's completely normal. And, me, I don't know. I've always found it a bit weird and then thought, is there something wrong with me? Am I just some weird little prude that just doesn't get this? And then now that I know, I was like, going, no, there is absolutely nothing wrong with me. I've just obviously I feel I've got a lot of respect for my body.
Yeah, you got a good force field.
Yeah, yeah,
Good perception.
yeah,
This is wrong. Yeah, because I mean, you see the little girls, they want to copy it. It's just so heartbreaking.
yeah,
So they go and they get in the sacral, and yeah, that's often how it starts because if the mother's got one, then the child's probably going to be born with one. And I had a situation where I was doing a clearing on a woman, and I was talking with the demon that was in her sacral, and the demon said that it had hopped on from her boyfriend,
yeah. They can
so
hop
they
in
can
from the
go
man.
from intercourse,
So
they can
yeah,
go to
again,
physical.
ladies, be
Yeah,
careful who it is that you're sleeping with.
clean and clear your men
Yeah,
before you.
yeah.
Yeah, so that can happen. And then yeah, the other places, what do you say? The throat's probably the next most popular because with the throat they can communicate out to the
Yeah,
world.
throats are really, I think the four places are definitely sacral, throat, the third eye. I always find them in the third eye, actually. They're a little bit smaller. I don't know, actually, sometimes they can be the big ones, but they always say they're the boss. That's the hilarious thing. It's like, who's the boss? I'm the boss. And you're like,
But they're the brains normally. They've got the intellectual ability. But then you
yeah.
find the what do you want to call them? Like the heavy men, just like the grunts in the solar plexus.
They're like the big flub things. And I just like Mr. Blobby. And they're so lazy. They're
They're
just
just
like
big.
big, fat, flubby things, and they just feed. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's a classic one in the solar plexus. And then, that's classic, for example, let's talk about, if we sort of segue into the different energy centers and then what the presenting physical symptoms are or the emotional symptoms. So, like in the solar plexus, that is, if there's been belittling, shame, guilt, eating problems, things like that, that's really going to affect the solar plexus.
Yeah,
And
and
that's a good
addictions.
indication you've kind of got something residing in there feeding of that guilt and shame. But again, then we can talk about, then that then connects into the throat. Because if there's, a lot of action going on in the throat, someone arguing all the time, someone saying really nasty things, especially under the influence of alcohol.
Yeah.
And then the next day they've got that guilt and the fear and the shame. That then feeds that one in the solar plexus. So I think it's important to let us tell people about how they do always work in little teams,
Yeah, yeah.
don't
They'll
they?
have cords between each other and they'll use them like
Mm,
little phone lines. Like,
yeah,
oh, let's make her crave a drink. And then
yeah,
you have a glass of wine, and then suddenly you're turning into a raving nutter, like screaming at your partner because he's a whatever. And suddenly you're feeling all this shame because, yeah, you've lost it again on alcohol. But really, it was a throat demon making you say all this, yeah, vile stuff, and then his demons are getting activated because you've now like insulted him. So then
yeah,
his solar plexus demons getting fed because he's now feeling anger and he's now
yeah,
erupting in rage back at you because he's also had a drink. And the
yeah,
demons are just laughing to themselves thinking, yeah, we've like fed ourselves again.
yeah. I know that's it, isn't it? And I think that's it. You can start seeing within people going, that's not them. That is something there that's controlling their voice,
Yeah.
even though, but they think it's them. I mean, because
No,
I guess before you had any clearings, you didn't know that you had things attached to you.
didn't know. um One thing with the throat as well is they can also suppress someone's voice and like
Yeah,
stop you from speaking. So as well as like making you say vile things while you're intoxicated or feeling stressed, they can also do the opposite and like lock your ability to defend yourself down. So you might find yourself getting more attacked by other people. So sometimes one type of demon will attach to one person and the opposite type of demon will attach to the other. So the one that silences is on this person and the one that attacks is on that person. And then you've got this like polarity where those two people are just going to be in like a locked situation. Them always feeling they can't defend themselves
that's,
and them always
I
attacking.
guess it's a classic, like a narcissistic relationship. You'll have that subservient one there. So the one who's the narcissist is going to have that bigger, stronger one, which loves controlling the subservient one, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
Because the demonic realm is a hierarchical realm. So it's not just the one that's attached to you. They often have cords up to the next layer and then the next layer. And so they're all feeding off in like a hierarchy. And then, yeah,
hmm
as you say, they'll also do that like with the people as well, have a hierarchy between the demons on different people.
Yeah, they're quite cunning little things, but
Yeah.
interestingly enough, when you do start speaking to them, and then you realize they're not really that clever after all. They think they
They're
are.
not having a great time.
They're not having a great time, and I think that's the other thing we should speak about is the fact that, you know, they need to, for some, there's some people out there, right, that do some sort of works similar, same but different, but they're out destroying the demons, right? And when I thought about that, I was like going, but everything's energy, right? So you can't destroy energy. That just then has to recreate into something else. So I love the fact that we will speak to them, find out what it is, what are you doing, how did you get there, and then talk to them about how they've been lied to and show them the light that they have actually contain that light within them, and they can redeem themselves if they choose to. And I think that's the beautiful thing because you can't destroy something. And it's like they should also have that free will because they've been tricked and they've been deceived as well, the same as we've been tricked and we've been deceived. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it when you do run the light through and when they do understand what has happened to them. I think that's one of the most wonderful things that I find in sessions when they really do actually apologize and accept the light and they are so happy to be freed to continue their journey.
Yeah, they become really apologetic.
Hmm.
But what was I going to say? Yeah, the people that go out there and they're like, right, I'm going to fight the evil. I'm going to fight the dark ones. I'm a light worker and I'm going to fight the dark. What they're doing is they're just adding the equal and opposite energy into the battle. And I always say, like, because I work with people who are kind of recovering from narcissistic abuse, because obviously,
Hmm.
like, narcissists are just demon magnets, and then the empaths
Yeah.
end up with demons because they've ended up with a narcissist, and so their chakra system gets completely annihilated. So, but the way that you do battle with a narcissist, I say, is you leave the chessboard. The narcissist wants you kept in their game, and it's the same with the demons. So long as we're sat at the table playing the game with them, we're adding energy into that dynamic and we're not moving on. Because what the demons want is they want as many people as possible to stay locked in third dimensional reality. The Book of Ra is a really useful resource to read up about this, but basically the Earth School is a training school, it is a lesson school. We come down here to forget our source so that we can learn lessons and then take those away and sort of process them. And the Earth is coming up to her final stage of third dimensional reincarnation, like evolution. And she's going to start moving up to the fourth dimension and then the positively polarized fifth dimension. And there is a harvesting of souls at this time that if you are 51% service to others and you're that consistently in this lifetime, you will be transcending into the fifth dimension. So when you start to reincarnate into a body or go into a fifth dimensional life, but the demons want to keep as many of us in the third dimension reality so that they can stay in the fourth dimension and feed on us as food. So that's the kind of higher level battle that's really going on here. And so long as we're lock and key trying to fight the bad, and we're basically playing into that agenda where we just end up stuck recycling back into third dimensional lifetimes, when the real opportunity here is to step away from that drama and work on ourselves and work on serving others and ignore the news and ignore the negativity and just be like, right, how can I serve humanity? How can I serve Mother
Yeah.
Gaia? How can I serve animals and nature in a positive way? Because when we start focusing on that, we literally do create heaven on earth, but they don't want us to know that.
Yeah, well, they lose their food source, don't they? Essentially.
Yeah, because when we start vibrating at that higher level of light, they cannot latch in and connect to our energy centers. The only
Hmm.
reason they connect to our energy centers is because we have past traumas that we have not healed. We have recycling emotional loops that we are not getting out of. Like we always feel angry about the same situations, or we always feel upset or sad or jealous. All of these emotions will just be like energetic magnets for demons to attach to us. So if you've had a traumatic childhood, if you've used drugs and alcohol, that lowers your vibration, creating that energetic match. If you, what other things? If you've had like physical injury to the body, that could create negative, like that chakra won't be able to vibrate as high. So you need to
Yeah.
raise the vibration of the
Yeah,
chakra.
great fear. Well, what like the root is, I mean, they don't essentially fully attach there because it would, well, one, kill the person. But if you think about it, your root is that's your grounding to the earth. So you've had um like deep fear, like frightened for your life, then I guess that opens up the root because it's your whole stability's been shaken, so you're not fully grounded to the earth. And I always, do you ever see like people when you know they're walking down the street and they're almost like shuffling? I
Mm-hmm.
just look at them and go, wow, you have got something so attached and siphoning it out of your root, and they've got you in such a low vibration, just alive,
Yeah.
but so much pain, so much misery, and you just see them, and it is like the life force has just been sucked out of them.
Yeah.
Um,
I had three in my root.
did you?
Yeah, the practitioner was like, they're never in the root. You've got
Yeah.
three.
Yeah,
I don't know how I was
I
still
had a little
alive.
gargoyle. It was just a little one, a little gargoyle, but that had come in from, oh gosh, it had been with me lifetime after lifetime, and it was because of what was it? Living lives of fear and scarcity. So this thing had kept attaching, and now that it was actually going to be, I'm going to be safe in this incarnation. So, and that's when it was now ready to be removed. But that was quite a long way through my journey because I didn't, didn't find it. I think that's it's like layers of an onion, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uncovering these things in you.
And these
But
lessons, they
yeah.
can
So, and
take
what was happening
lifetimes.
in your route then?
Like I was just so full of fear. I just was in constant anxiety. I just didn't feel connected to the world, didn't feel connected to other people. And then when I had all that stuff taken out, I could really start to feel like, no, the earth does support us and I do
Yeah.
belong. And but it was because I'd just been born into such a traumatic family
Hmm.
that I'd never been able to find a sense of safety. And yeah, and so these things managed to get into my root. But I had stuff everywhere. That was but then interestingly, so we were talking about like how they jump from one person to another. I got a
Hmm.
story where I actually felt one jump into me. So I was out for a drink with a friend, and I don't drink as standard. I don't know if I told you the story, but I don't drink as standard. And I'd had like two cocktails. So that's the like I hadn't had a great deal of alcohol. And this was the first time I drank in about 4 months. And the only time I found that was like a glass of wine at Christmas time. And so yeah, I'm sitting there having this drink, and suddenly my shoulder was just so painful. And I knew exactly what it was because it was exactly the pain I used to feel before I'd had all my clearings done. But it was like something was just digging into my shoulder blade. And I was like, oh, damn it. A throat demon's hopped from them to me. I know exactly what's happened because I was trying to move my body, see if it would relieve the pain, but it was just like something was just locked in. So I
Yeah.
went home, and then when I was sober, I did the clearing on myself and the pain went away and it's not come back again.
Right. Yeah. That's it. Well, because I guess your auric field just opened up with you
Drinking.
having a drink, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And they love bars and nightclubs, demons' best
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah, yeah, hanging around in the bar. I always say they don't call it spirits for no reason, do they?
No, and it's
And
the
you can
witching
see it.
hour.
You
You're
can
out
see
at
it in
3 a.m. in the
people.
morning when
They
the
after a certain amount to drink, and it's the eyes just go, and you can just someone's they're gone,
yeah,
and then that thing is just in there,
popped
just
in.
having a probably an earthbound as well that likes a little drink and it's like woohoo, get the party started, and then
Yeah.
people just like lose all inhibitions and out of control. So and you must get the different types of personalities, the ones that are quite fun drunk, and then the ones that get the real violent drunk. So then it's something dark, I guess, that's attached to them.
Yeah. And able to get a stronger hold on
Mm,
their body and mind
mhm.
because the drink, as you say, is they've left the building and
Yeah,
something's hopped in and is driving the car, sort of thing. So
yeah.
yeah. What's been your most sort of interesting demon story that you've had that you've removed? Have you got
There's
one?
been so many. It's just, I honestly, I'm trying to, like, off the top of my head, I can't actually think. I found just some of the most bizarre thing for being like, play a dark spirit was actually a couple of werewolves that had been for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Because I'm trying to work out what's going on. Because you know how you can get hit with like, you're like, I haven't come across this. What is this? And then it's like, it was just like, wolf. And I'm like, what is it, a spirit animal or what is it? And then realized it was dark. I mean, there was a lot of grunting and shouting. And then, weirdly enough, the guy I did it on sent me a picture of he's just moved into a new house, and it's a picture of a werewolf with an Indian woman lying back in it. It's like a little sort of plaque thing. And he found it up in the loft of his house. And I was like, whoa, how weird and freaky is that?
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
that's but there's just so many different stories. I mean, yeah, I'm used to getting pretty much shouted at to go away. Um,
Oh yeah, they don't
you
speak
know,
nicely to us.
spitting, bit of growling and whatnot, or, you know, but you know, like, well, we've learned, you know, cut the cord to the master, and that just kind of calms everything down.
Yeah.
Um, the most interesting would be myself is like my very first session, and I had so much attached into my throat. Um, and then, you know, putting the jigsaw puzzle together, I had throat problems like since I was 17. Losing my voice, tonsillitis, had my tonsils out, and all the way through. And these things were, I had no control during the session. These things were just growling, and I think I've got a video on my channel about the removal of my throat demon, but they were like, "She belongs to us."
Yeah.
And it was, you know, and it was really weird because during session, you know, it just seems quite normal.
Do you think you had anything then in your childhood that would have invited that energy in?
Yeah, well, I had an event when I was 17. Um,
Right. So it's
that
very
happened, and then
clear.
it was kind of like, no, go to your room. We're not speaking about this. And then, yeah, that was definitely it. And then ever since that day, that's when it was tonsillitis every 6 weeks.
And that just shows it
Until
could just be one trauma
one
where you're
trauma, and that the
silenced.
classic, I was silenced. I was in hospital, not just for a night or something, but then that must be when that happened.
The catalyst, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And then I reckon then there's just the whole host just coming in, because that's the other thing that you find, there could be one there, but then when that person's vibration starts to come up, when they start, you know, maybe seeking a bit more, you know, down the lines of a bit of spirituality,
Yeah.
they sometimes say they need help. So they get a mate to come in and help to keep this person down and suppressed.
Yeah, I had one woman, she had 7 throat demons in her throat. It was
Wow.
literally like, remove one, right? Where's the next energy? Oh, it's in the throat. Like, it was like this 7 times. So we removed all of those 7. And she used to report, like, she was a very high, respectable woman in a corporate world. But she said that when she was in like stressful meetings, suddenly she would find herself saying inappropriate things. And I think this is just a really interesting thing to note, because it doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. It could just be you're feeling stressed because you've got a toxic coworker, and obviously they've got a demon on them. So their demon's going to be aggravating your demon. They're going to tell each other all your triggers. So then that person in the meeting room starts saying something that aggravates you. Your energy center goes down because you're now feeling angry or anxious or scared or something. And then that throat demon, all the 7 of them, start hopping in and saying inappropriate things through your voice box. And then you feel the shame and guilt afterwards. It's just, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It is. I mean, it's just wild, isn't it, when you think about it?
it really is.
Um, we're out like, yeah, the third eye, that's quite a
Well, they'll
common
make you
one.
see nightmares. If you
Yeah.
have repeated nightmares, you've got a third eye demon. Or if you can't access your clairs, if you don't have sight, if you can't, like, obviously that takes some clearing of your energy centers as well. Like, you have to be clearing your trauma in order to access your higher spiritual gifts. But if you had access to them and they've gone,
Hmm.
that could be a sign.
Yeah. And physically, like, I guess eye problems, and I quite often find people's ears,
Is
issues with their ears.
migraines,
Yeah, migraine, stuff like that.
not being able to think creatively,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
all third eye energy, isn't it? Intuition,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
sensing
your
danger.
sort of intuition, your wisdom, your connection to your soul as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the
Hmm.
things we're looking for. We're looking for, is there physical trauma or aches and pains in the body in that area? And that could
Yeah.
include like things like cancers and digestive problems and rashes and, skin problems, all that sort of stuff, aren't we? We're looking for that. We're looking for emotional disturbances that relate to those areas, and
Yeah. I
behavior
found it
changes.
the up in the crown. Was a weird one. Up in the crown was someone, she had it was in the third eye, and that had caused a whole load of psoriasis in her ears. or eczema or psoriasis. It was something she'd never had it before. And then we came across a whole host of parasites here in the crown that were like little vultures. And it was they'd caused vitiligo. She had a patch of vitiligo under each armpit. And she had this funny feeling that it was parasites that had caused this because it just came out of nowhere. And it was that. It was like these sort of I guess like who not like cords
Tentacles or something. Yeah,
cords that
cords.
then caused these patches of vitiligo. But then
Amazing.
that was then attached into AI, but we were going to leave the AI for another day because
Another
that's just yeah,
conversation.
oh man, I just have had some of the wildest information come through by AI,
Yeah, we need to talk
and
about
and
that.
then it's something that we just don't know as much about yet. But it's, I still don't fully understand it, but that is definitely for another day.
Absolutely. I got my
Um,
craziest demon story
yes,
of a client.
yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and say this in the sort of most confidential way possible because it's a really sensitive topic. But
Mm.
my client, my client's relative had ended his own life. And before he ended his own life, he murdered his best friend. And the whole family had to go into hiding because he had gone on the run. But what had actually happened is because they lived in a cold country and there was big snow blizzards. The bodies were actually in a car and hadn't got found until all the snow had thawed. So can you imagine like the level of trauma that that person went through? Relative has gone into hiding and their best friend's missing and they don't know where they are and all this stuff. And then it turns out this has happened. And it was the demon that had been attached to this relative had caused that murder suicide. They'd driven the behavior of the relative to do those things. And then I came to do the clearing session, and the same entity was on my client. And what was reported was that periodically, different members of the family would show sort of disturbing behavior. They'd start using substances, becoming more aggressive. And it had become like this known thing where it was like there's this thing that hops between the family members and creates, yeah, emotional disturbances, addictive behavior. And then I come to do the clearing session and I spoke to the very same entity that had been on this relative that had caused a murder suicide. Like that
Just
was the most
wild, isn't
extreme.
it?
Yeah.
Just wild. And then what happened when you kind of showed it its own light, its own spark of source,
Yeah, it converted.
converted?
Yeah, went happily.
And just look at that pain and destruction within a whole family. And, it just does make so much sense of going, why are people the way that they are? It really has made me so much more compassionate in not being as, I don't judge people anymore. I can recognize that going, do you know what? It's not them. This is not them. No one is born bad. They really aren't born bad. And through various, um, I guess, traumas and social conditioning, that's where it comes from. And, if they've got these attachments, it's that and it's not the person. So do you find that as well, that you're just so much less judgmental?
Yeah. But I
Hmm.
also find that the more I do my own personal work and clearing, I don't come across those negative people so much anymore.
Yeah, they just kind of they've just disappeared, haven't they?
Yeah, because they're
Hmm.
resonating at a completely different vibrational level. And so they're all hanging out in the same places. And
Yeah,
that's not where I want to hang out anymore because
yeah,
I very much used to like being on the party scene and the clubbing scene. And I don't
yeah,
like that anymore. And I don't want to be there. And I keep getting invited to nights out, and I keep thinking, yeah, that'll be good fun. And then as it gets closer to the date, I'm like, no, I don't
Yeah.
want to do it.
I get the fear now, thinking of gosh, if anything goes past 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, no, 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 no. And I was a big party girl too. I'd
Yeah.
be out till all sorts of hours.
I used to
And
say I'll be doing this when I'm
I just go,
60.
there's absolutely no, that gives me the biggest fear is the thought of, going for a big night out. I still drink, I mean, I still drink alcohol, but nothing like I used to. It's just, a bit of wine with dinner, and I do not like that feeling of being drunk. I think it's knowing what I know. But yeah, it's changed days, that's for sure.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, I've got a
Mm.
tickly throat, which is another sign that you could have a throat demon, by the way, because they will try and make you cough and splutter when you've got to try and share something. Like if we're trying to do a removal on someone and they're
Yeah, they
sharing their life
do.
story, they'll start coughing and not being able to speak, and it's the demon that's making them do that. So,
Yeah, they do. They
yeah.
get a right good grip of the throat for
Well,
them.
I've had it where clients have actually reported that they are being strangled in the session because we're
Yeah,
removing a really big throat demon, and they are literally pushing down on the client's throat
yeah.
so that they can't
That
breathe
the thing I
properly.
had was all wrapped around my vocal cords and stuff, and trying to prevent me from speaking. But we got there in the end. Yeah. Now what? Let's think. So we've talked about.
I've got one more thing we can
Oh,
mention:
yes, yeah.
nest of demons.
Oh, the nest of
And
them.
if
Yeah.
someone is a hoarder, they won't just
Yes.
have demons on them, they'll have demons in their home, creating little negative. Because like, oh, I've done clearings of my home, and they're always around the Wi-Fi unit, the television, the big mirrors. That's where the big portals are that they come in and out. So I'm always having to like close those down and sage and all that good stuff. But if you are a hoarder, you're just going to have demon nests everywhere.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, oh, I must remember to say that's a classic sign, is the hoarders, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which that actually beautifully segues us on to about protection. So what do you personally do for protection?
My biggest thing is sincere shadow work, because the more that I can be a clean and clear vessel of my consciousness, as in, I don't have childhood memories that are creating negative emotions, i.e., triggers in my body, then I'm not going to be an energetic match to negatively polarized beings. So I'm always looking at like, where am I projecting my shadow? What qualities are in my unconscious that my ego's rejected because of how I was raised as a child? I do, meditations to process the emotional material that's sat there and reframe it and, evolve from that young state of consciousness to a wiser mind. Um, and then I do my own clean and clearing regularly. And then I don't put myself in environments where I think entities are going to be having a field day, like pubs, clubs, like anywhere there's a lot of alcohol, substances, or like rock, heavy metal sort of
Hmm.
environments, anything like that where it's very low vibration. I don't really
Hmm.
tend to want to gravitate towards those anymore.
Yeah. I think that's it. It's about emotional self-mastery. And yeah, me personally, so I live in the present as much as possible. I I find it actually impossible to go mind wandering like I used, I've gone through periods of being really, I mean, properly depressed. I've done the anxiety, the depression, all of that, which I'd have just been a perfect magnet, because that's all it is. I always see myself, I'm just this big, huge magnet, and I am going to just magnetize it. And if everything's vibration, frequency, energy, then that's what it is. So I find it impossible going into the past. And I don't even go into like past good memories. I don't feel I've got the need to do that. I used to be amazing at going into past bad memories and, replaying the whole thing. I could have said this, I could have done that. I wish
Yeah.
this had happened, and you're like, what was the point? So I think stay in the here and the now and don't ever go if I do feel a little bit sad ever, some days you're not feeling as like up here as other days, that's okay because you know it's not going to last forever. So I just keep myself on a really even keel and like you, just don't put myself in positions where I am going to literally know that there's like a little demon fest. And if I was to go somewhere that I had no choice to go, that beautiful bubble of light around me,
Yeah.
and just know that I am pure light, and
The
that's it.
best
And I
thing you
do
can
not
do,
consent.
yeah,
That is my four favorite words.
do not consent and no fear.
And absolutely no fear.
I
Yeah,
laugh about demons. People are like, you're not scared. It's
I
like, no, I
know.
find them funny.
I do. Yeah, yeah, same here. It's really
Like,
weird when
no. I
people
think when I
ask.
first did my first clearing, I was like, oh, what we're going to come across. And then you're just
Yeah,
like, oh, okay, that's what it is.
yeah. And then I thought, do you know what? I've taken a little box through of tricks. So if people, what I've got set up in my home. But I think, do you know what? You can have all these things done. You can have all your crystals, you can have all that. But if you're still in these fear, shame, guilt, sadness, all of that, you're still a magnetic match to these things. So there's no point in having all of these protection stuff around you.
No,
I
the
just
inner
add
work
it in.
first.
So, like, for example, this is a little box thing I got.
Yeah.
So I put black tourmaline
Yeah.
into the furthest away corners, the four far, and then I've got a clear quartz point that goes into that.
Yeah.
Do you do the same? I'm
I
going to
haven't got the
laugh if you
clear.
do the same
I
as
haven't got the
me,
clear quartz one, no.
right? And then in kind of in the center of my home, I've actually got a huge chunk of amethyst. So, but that's
Nice.
just a small one I've got here.
Yeah.
So that's in the four furthest corners of my home. And then if I feel, every now and again, my favorite, but
Love it.
sage, bit of Palo Santo.
Love it.
That
Yeah.
is how you set your crystal grid up. So you've got those four corners protected,
Yeah.
and then something really high vibration in the middle. And then, I don't do it every night, but sometimes I'll just lie in bed and I visualize like a trail of white light all around my fence, all the way around the border of my house.
Yeah.
And one around me, and yet the cloak, if I'm going out and stuff. But I think it's just emotional mastery is the most important thing.
Yeah.
um
Maybe we
these
could
are
do
just I think these are just extra tools that can
they're
help
nice
you,
visual
and they
pointers.
also look really nice.
Yeah. I've
I
got
really, really
organite
like
around the house.
crystals.
Yeah.
So now, was there anything what else was there anything else we were going to talk about? I
I
mean,
think that's
like,
it. We're going to talk about where
oh,
demons have come from, where they attach, how they attach, what they do to the
yeah,
body, and how to protect yourself. But I think we
yeah,
should do another one more detailed on like the emotional mastery stuff
yeah,
and how that
definitely.
looks because that is literally what I do with people day in, day out, is helping them build that force field, that energetic.
Well, yeah, because we can talk about all these things, but it's like, well, what are we going to do about it? Um,
Because it's
and
both. We can take the demons off, but if you're then going to walk out of a session and then get into a fight with a bus driver, then it's kind of undoing all of our good work. So that's where the emotional mastery piece comes in. As like, I find that I often have to do emotional mastery with clients, then we remove what demons they've got, and then we do more emotional mastery, and then we
yeah,
remove the next batch of demons that have got in because we've been doing some
yeah,
emotional mastery work.
yeah, because it's not a magic wand. It's like, oh,
Not one and done.
let's just rip it all off, and then you're left like, oh, I don't even know who I am, and you go straight back into that. And it takes it. All this stuff does take time
Yeah. And one of the
to.
things that we get told as
Mhm.
well, isn't it, is that when you're hearing all those voices in your head, you think they're yours because we've been trained that everything that we say in our head is our thought. And actually, it could be a demon. So you come out of a soul center healing session and suddenly your brain feels really quiet because your mind is really quiet because all this noise, chatter has gone, all the entities, all the demons, all the earthbound spirits. And so it can feel really quiet up there. And some people don't like that. And they deliberately invite people back in. That's like a
Yeah,
bit of
that's
company.
true. Yeah, yeah, that is actually quite true. That's in my poem, isn't it? Your mind will go quiet for the very first time.
Yes, I
Your
love
power
that.
and your
Thank you.
wisdom come back online.
Yes. And that's
Yeah,
the thing, once you start silencing your mind, this other, yeah, knowing comes forward, not the ego, but something deeper, like
yeah. Well,
ancient
you've got
wisdom.
space for it. You can hear it instead of the battle. I mean, some people's minds must be so unbelievably noisy.
Yeah.
And it's still it's one of the I'd say it's one of the nicest things is to find that
Peace,
peace.
inner stillness, calm.
Yeah.
It is so
And
lush.
you, and you can just cope with life so much better. Um,
My coach always says to me, it's a saner way to live your life. It's like you're still living the same life. There'll still be the trials and the tribulations. You'll still have to work. You'll still have people being, you know, knobs and stuff like that. But ultimately, you'll be able to handle it in a very like calm and sane way rather than being
mm,
reactive and caught in the drama. And
yeah, and just being quite neutral and
yeah,
also being able to step back without going, "Oh," because
yeah,
that would have been your throat one wanting to get in the action. And you can actually like stand back and assess situations and just, do you know, just even having that pause when before you would, you
yeah.
know,
And also being able to just find that moment, like sense of joy without needing anything to change on the outside, without needing the new car or the relationship or, something to happen for your birthday. You can just be like, no, everything's good. I'm happy.
yeah.
It's so
Oh.
good.
Oh, I love chatting with you, Nicole. So, if thanks to anyone who's got to the end of listening to us rambling on. But where can everyone find you? Because it's not just SCHH that you do. Tell them what
No.
else it is that you do, because there might be someone that is looking for this kind of
Yeah,
help.
well, it's quite exciting because I'm in the process of pivoting my business. So it's nicoleshepherd.co.uk is my website, but I'm just about to relaunch and rebrand. I'm basically going to be working with helping survivors of narcissistic abuse to sort of activate their full potential. So it's not leaving the relationship. This is people that have already left the relationship and they know that they got done over by a narcissist, but it's helping prevent, so I call it, you become narc proof, preventing that from happening again, but also activating your full potential, because people that do get embroiled with narcissists tend to be quite empathetic. They tend to be the light workers who want to
Mhm.
see the best in everyone, but that does leave us vulnerable to their attacks because we do have this magical thinking and also all the shadow projections that keep us magnetically pulled towards them because we secretly want to be a bit more like they are, but we don't want to be like them. So it's like, we can very easily jump from one narcissistic relationship into another. And my program is going to help stop that in its tracks, get rid of all the interference, the energetic entities that hopped in because of the narcissistic abuse, and get you on a clean slate, feeling high
Sounds
vibe.
amazing. Well, good luck with all of that. And then, oh, the
Thank you.
exciting news, we're actually going to go meet in person soon, aren't we?
I'm so
I think in the
excited.
first of the month.
Yes,
So excited.
exactly.
That'll be amazing.
Got it in the diary. I can't
I
wait.
know.
I have to get a photo.
Yeah, we'll get a
Or it never
photo.
happened.
Um, right, well, thanks again. And then, yeah, I'm sure you guys will see us back because I think we've got a few more things that we want to just little things we
Chat
want to
through.
mooch into. There's so many different topics we can talk about. So
Awesome.
thank you all for watching, and I will say goodbye, Nicole.